Hey guys, the start of my entrepreneur journey goes back to 1986 when I was in marketing class in high school. This goes back to my junior year, 1986, and I never looked back ever since, okay? A lot of my friends, they went to wood shop, metal shop, they went to power class, they took home ec, and they took food, okay? Now they got to eat food and things like that. They thought that was more important than business and marketing. I had no idea what this was about, to be honest with you. But that's where it all started, okay? And I went 2 years. I did it was a college-oriented class. So by the time I reached college in '87, I already knew the Marketing 101. So it was great. In fact, I went back and thanked my high school teacher for teaching me a college-level marketing course, okay? Anyway, so it started back then in marketing. Ever since then, you know, I had to write a paper in my final exams on what type of business I would own. That was in my entrepreneurship class. And, you know, like I said, I never looked back. And this is back in the 80s. I started my first business back in 1987. I was 18. Okay, this was in the July of '87, and I got involved with NSA, National Safety Associates, and I was selling water filters. Now, this is my first hardcore training in sales, because if I didn't make a sale, I wasn't making any money, okay? Now, I was still going to college, I still had a part-time job, but I was doing this on the side. You know, sometimes I would make $300 a week, sometimes it was more, less, whatever. You know, the bottom line to that was my first introduction into MLM and into business. You know, I learned how to write stuff off. I learned how to, you know, what kind of deductions I can have. I had to come up with my own business cards. I had to come up with my own flyers. I mean, this is all back in 1987, '88, okay? And then, as that was happening, I ended up getting a garage full of water filters, you know, because I was moving on to other things. My best friend asked me to help him clean movie theaters. Okay, this is back in 1989. And so we did that. And again, I was an independent contractor, so I knew they gave me a 1099, and they paid me by the job, not by the hour. Okay, and I was making real good money cleaning movie theaters. It was great. You know, we worked in the morning. I had to be done by 11:30 before the first show, so we'd get there at 5:30. And I was in a rock and roll band back then too, so we stayed up all night sometimes and just go over to the movie theater and start cleaning it. I mean, it was crazy time of life. I was still in college. I was still getting a degree in marketing, and we were doing cleaning. Everything was flexible. It was great. Moving on, okay? So I got my degree up there in Connecticut, all right? New England is a beautiful town, beautiful country up there in New England. But you know, it didn't have anything for me. I always was a beach type of person. I wanted to be at the beach. I wanted to live at the beach. And that's exactly what I did. I set out in 1990 to come down here at the beach, Myrtle Beach, and I haven't looked back since. You know, I said that before, but I'm saying it down here at the beach. Coming down here, I packed everything up in my Subaru GL10 Turbo, and I took off. Okay, I didn't know a soul down here. It was barren. After Labor Day, this was a ghost town, and I didn't know it. I came down here once before in 1977, stayed at Lakewood Campground, and the beaches had such an impact down here. The people had such an impact down here that I always wanted to come down here. And that was my dream. You know, even when I was a kid at Disney World, just as this is a side note, when I went to Disney World in 1976, I said I wanted to be at a place where everybody wanted to go. And I thought it was Disney World, but it was at the beach. Anyway, moving on, okay, this is 1990. 1991, I started my first corporate job at Jones Intercable, okay? Now, this is my first introductory into corporate America. Now this is awesome because I started out as a customer service rep taking phone calls. I would take 119 phone calls a day when there was billing time, people disconnecting their cable, all those type of things. So I learned customer service back then. But because I had a marketing degree, I was able to get promoted within a year into the pay-per-view department. I was in charge of the wrestling events, the Mike Tyson events, the Evander Holyfield events, foreman. I went to New Orleans on conferences, Orlando on conferences. So I loved it. It was great. To be honest with you, it was great. But you know what? There was an inner voice inside of me saying you can do better, you know, and you were born to be an entrepreneur. So after 5 years, I left corporate America. I didn't like the bureaucracy. You know, here's a side story. When I went down there to New Orleans and I saw other colleagues of mine all across the country from Hawaii, Alaska, Florida, etc. And we hung out with those people. And they were doing all these promotions for pay-per-view, okay? And I was sitting there thinking, I'm not doing any of this stuff. And because I wasn't taught, all right? So I went back all jazzed up to partner with retail establishments. It was called a retail tie-in. You know, pizza places for fights and subs, Subway and things like that. I got so excited, but you know what happened? I got home and my marketing manager threw a wet blanket on my enthusiasm and totally doused everything. She said, you know, we want you to, you know, calm down, relax. We want reports, we want data before you go crazy out there. And I was really ticked off. To be honest with you, I was ticked. I wanted to quit right then. But I didn't. I said, you want reports? I'll give you one a day. So I created these reports. I had to learn Lotus Smart Suite on my own, creating these reports, graphics, pie charts, data, and I gave them all into her inbox. It was crazy. You know, if somebody pushes me into a corner, you know, like these people in corporate America, bosses, you've come across this yourself. You know what this is like. So when they push you into a corner, you have to defend yourself, and you do that mentally and spiritually. You know, you do whatever you have to do. But at the end of the 5 years, I left and I went off on my own and I sold gift items. The name of my company when I left the corporate America was D&D Distributors. And what I was doing was selling gift items to the people along the Grand Strand. There's thousands and thousands of gift shops here at the beach. And so I just went with them and I found a wholesaler all across the country to give me these gift items, and in 1 week I made $5,000. It was fantastic. It was fantastic, but I learned a hard lesson. He didn't pay me within 30 days or 45 days. He gave me a big chunk, but he didn't give me all of it, and I had to fight for it. That's a lesson that I had to learn on my own. I was still excited though, okay, because I was making money at other places. But you know what? There was transition. I had to make a transition, to be honest with you. And I'm going to tell you how and why I made that transition. I went up to Charlotte, North Carolina, and I went to a trade show where all the gift masters were, okay? All these people were vendors, and they were product creators, and they had a plethora of gifts. And this is where all the buyers down here at the beach went up to, okay? So me peddling these little gift items, no, it didn't work. I wasn't making enough money and I couldn't compete. I had to make a choice. Either I go on the road and do trade shows with these gifts, or I have to shift. So what did I do? I shifted, all right? I shifted my focus and I looked for a wholesaler, and I came across this guy named Jason Alexander. Believe it or not, it's not George from Seinfeld, but George Costanza, but it's Jason Alexander. He was on Fifth Avenue, and he owned DB&B Promotions. And I got to tell you something. He was my mentor. He was my partner, and he showed me a lot of things. And he was a millionaire. And what he did was show me how to sell advertising specialties and promotions, how to help businesses with promotions. And I'm going to tell you what an experience I had. It was so fun because one person wanted, clothes and sweatshirts and things like that. The other person is having a grand opening, so they needed advertising specialties for the grand opening. I remember. So this is what we did for the Holiday Inn Express. Okay, they were just building it. In fact, Holiday Inn Express was just new at the time. This is another venture that they were doing. So down here at the beach, I believe it was called the Fairfield Inn. I went in there, had a meeting, said, what do you need for this grand opening? You're going to have VIPs here and things, and people of the city. Great. Okay, let's do this. I ordered the microwave popcorn with their label on it saying, look what's popped up in Myrtle Beach. And on the inside flap was their logo, the Fairfield Inn, Holiday Inn Express. And, that was awesome. I also gave them shells, like these stress balls, but they were in the shape of a shell, the Fairfield with their logo on it. It was really a great experience, okay? But here's the thing, I was partnered with somebody else, and I had to share 50% of the income. Now, he was supplying me with the product and telling me how to work the business and giving me the catalogs. But I wasn't making enough money. So what I had to do was find another source of income. So what I did was went over my friend's house that I used to work with in the cable company way back in the early 90s. And I asked him, what are you doing? And he said he was a cable contractor, installing high-rises, installing underground cable, doing joint trench work, and things like that. I said, okay, well, he gave me an offer. He said, I'm heading to a high-rise tomorrow. This is on a Saturday. If you want to help me, you can make some extra cash. I said, great, let's do that. So there was a brand new high-rise being built along the Grand Strand here, and it was amazing. So what we did was we had the RG6 cable, coaxial cable. We'd stretched them out in 10-foot increments. Okay, we cut them into jumpers. They were like jumpers going from floor to floor, and that's what we had to do. And you know how much I made? I made $500 before 12 o'clock. Okay, I was getting paid per wire. And we did so many floors, so many outlets. Some of the outlets were this long. We cut a jumper this long to go back to back to the two different rooms, the living room and the bedroom. I made money on that. And that was my introduction into cable contracting. See, in the beginning, I worked in the corporate office, and then now I'm doing on the other side, doing the cable contracting business. It was great though, man. The money, I'll tell you, it was just coming in. We couldn't keep up with the work. It was so awesome. So that was my cable contracting part of it. Now I know I'm going long, but I want to tell you the different businesses that I did. Now, along this time, I was getting involved with the internet. Now, I started my first website back in 97. 1997, I used Microsoft Front Page 98, and I created my own website, and I was selling Amazon books. I wasn't getting that much of a profit. That's why I was still doing the cable TV. But this was supporting my beginning into internet marketing and internet websites, okay? So that started in 97. Everything started to change in 97. So that was my part into it. Then from cable contracting, I went through my first midlife crisis back in 2001 when Adelphia went bankrupt. We were looking at total debt freedom. We were going to rewire the whole county of Georgetown. Going to rewire it. And we were getting paid by the foot. So you can imagine miles and miles of cable and being charged by the foot. And we were going to hire like 30 guys. We were going to do this and drive in our Harley Davidsons and check up on the crews, okay? Right, we were this close, but you know what? The bottom fell out. This was about the time where all those scandals were happening with Tyco, Enron, Adelphia got hooked up with it. They held our checks. We lost $25,000. Okay, now to a two-man crew, 2 families, that was a lot of money. Okay, that was a large sum of our debt. Okay, but we were smart. We were able to sell some of that debt in order to trade for shares of the company just in case they bounced back. And we got out of the credit card debt and the things that we had. That was awesome. However, we lost our shirts. They sold out to Time Warner, and the rest is history. I had to find another source. And you know what I did? Because I have a skill set in cleaning, I started cleaning. I started doing construction cleaning. This is 2005, and I called it Commercial Clean. Okay, Commercial Clean. One day, you know, in this course, I'm going to show you on how to create a compelling business name. So you want to stay tuned for that. Anyway, going on. Okay, so I called it Commercial Clean. Now, Commercial Clean, what I did was cleaned construction housing and things like that. There would be scrap sheetrock, scrap wood. Then I'd have to do the finishing touches on the house. I mean, I was making great money, okay, at the time. But it was sporadic. And you know how that is. If you're, you know, when it rains, it pours. So you get all this money, you get all this work, but then it dries up. So you got to stretch that money out. You got to learn how to budget, especially when you're doing business. But it hurts your cash flow. And I'll talk about that later in my classes. So anyway, it was called Commercial Clean. I had that going. Then my neighbor had a strongman competitor that built docks, seawalls, marinas, pile driving. He had a crane, he had a barge, and he was paying a lot of money for this life-threatening work, okay? Now, things were slow in the cleaning business because construction was slowing down. So what I did was join forces with my neighbor's brother, and we formed this marine construction company. And within the first 9 months, we made about $500,000, okay, from scratch in 9 months. It was, again, I went with the money, because let me tell you something, when you're down here at the beach, it's all about survival. And if you're making good money each week and you're doing more than surviving, then you're doing really, really well. In fact, you can see these piers behind us, okay? This pier, actually, we were able to reconstruct and fix 11 pylons, all before Easter. And here's some of the things that we would do. There was a small crane, had to be lifted by a bigger crane on top of the pier itself. And I gotta tell you, it was life-threatening work. And then we had this 3,000-pound air hammer. It was a vibratory air hammer that we put on top of the stud. You could see the pylons. Some of the pylons were 24 to 36 inches that we had to taper in order to put the vibratory hammer on, okay? We had to take a air compressor, one of those huge ones that you have in a truck, and when it was low tide, we had to go as close to the pier as possible, okay? It was an amazing stunt. We had to lift the pylons up onto the deck, rip up the deck, take out the old pylons, and lay them on the deck, drag them out, and drag them off onto the shore, and then drag them up on shore. It was crazy. And so we became partners. There was so much money involved. But I gotta tell you, my budget was $10,000 a week. If I didn't make that budget, something was gonna go late, and it wasn't gonna be payroll, okay? I always made sure my guys were paid first. But $10,000, you can imagine the stress level of that with machines, new machines. I had Bobcats, I had a Kobelco, I had trailers, I had fuel, diesel fuel. You can imagine the liability insurance to be able to work out there. you need a special insurance named Longshoremen's Insurance, which adds another liability layer onto the insurance policy. Anyway, that was my last business before the collapse of 2007, okay? Now, I was still doing the cleaning business as a side business, okay? I never let go of that. You never want to let go until you're absolutely sure. So that was my last business venture on that grand scale, okay? And I got to tell you, it was one of the worst experiences of my life. And I'll talk about that more in depth in my stories. But when you have a partnership that was great like this, and then it was torn apart, it just levels everything, okay? And your finances, you're fighting for your life, you're fighting for your house. It's not a good thing, okay? That was my second midlife crisis. And as soon as I got over that, it took 3 years. I found out I had cancer in 2010. This is my third midlife crisis, okay? So I've been there, I've done that. I got the scars to prove it on my chest, all right? But it's all good. I thank God for taking me through those challenges in life. And, thank God for his son and everything about his son. Because without him, I would not be here by the grace of God. So you're going to learn that more about me as we go forward. But I just wanted to tell you where I came from, how I got through it. I'm going to show you all these different courses that I learned about business and relationships and leadership and management and graphic design and product creation. I mean, we got a whole plethora of different things. You definitely want to check out the Get a Clue Marketing Show. You definitely want to check out the Get a Clue Marketing Classroom. I'm sorry, it's the getaclueclassroom.com that you definitely want to check out if you're not already here, okay? Anyway, I went really long, and everything's good now. I'm living my passion, I'm living my desire, and I'm going to teach you how to do it yourself and how to live comfortably in the place that you want to be, okay? You want to do what you want to do and make a lot of money at it, and I'm going to show you how to do that coming up. This is David D. from the Get a Clue Marketing Show, from the Get a Clue Classroom. I'm your instructor and your host. Thanks again for watching, and we'll talk to you soon. You definitely want to sign up to whatever I have to offer because it's good quality content. Thanks again.